find the constant of proportionality. This video will help you kind of solidify your understanding of constant of proportionality. So you should have this sheet in front of you that has the following questions. If you don't have it in front of you and you can get it, go ahead and get it now, but if not, you're going to have to just copy the problems down. A cereal company determines that 3 out of 5 people who bought cereal bought Raisin Bran. Use the constant of proportionality to determine how many people bought Raisin Bran if 3,500 people were surveyed. Okay, so when we're dealing with a rate, what do I always tell you to set up? A T-chart. So we're going to set up our X and our Y T-chart. We have 2 different units. We know that 3 out of 5 people who bought cereal bought Raisin Bran. So we're working with people who bought Raisin Bran and then total number of people. So we have to figure out what's going to be our X and our Y. What is our independent and dependent variable? So here's where you have to ask yourself, does the total number of people depend on the people who bought Raisin Bran, or does the people who bought Raisin Bran depend on the total people? So in this situation, this is the truth. People who bought Raisin Bran depends on the number of people who are surveyed. So our dependent variable is our Y. That's the people who bought Raisin Bran, and that depends on X number of people. So X is our total, and Y is our Raisin Bran people. So we're given in this situation that 3 out of 5 people bought Raisin Bran. So 5 is the total number of people, and 3 would be the people who bought Raisin Bran. Now the situation says use the constant of proportionality to determine how many people bought Raisin Bran. So we're looking for the Raisin Bran people if a total of 3,500 people were surveyed. So we're asked again to use the constant of proportionality. So one thing that I do want to point out is that you can just look at this vertical relationship here. 5 times what is 3,500? Well, I know that 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 70 would be 350. So 5 times 700 is 3,500. So if I multiply my X's by 700, I can also multiply my Y's by 700 to get 2,100 people. So I know that my answer is 21 people bought Raisin Bran if this many people were surveyed. However, the question asks us to use the constant of proportionality. So let's figure out what that constant is and use it to see if we get 2,500. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to start with is our constant equals Y divided by X. Now I'm going to substitute in my values. 3 divided by 5. And I'm going to recommend that you leave it as a fraction because it's much easier to work with fractions oftentimes, because sometimes you'll get repeating decimals. So I know that my constant is 3/5. So what does the constant mean? The constant is what you multiply to your X's to get your Y's. So 3,500 times 3/5 should give us Y number of people. So let's try that. Let's do 3,500 times 3/5. So that's going to be 3,500 over 1 times 3/5. So we have to multiply numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. So 1 times 5 is 5, And 3,500 times 3 is 10,500. So I have 10,500 divided by 5. Let's divide that out. I bet I could do this in my head. 5 into 10 is 2, and 5 into 500 is 100. So, isn't that what we got before? But this time, we used the constant of proportionality to determine Y number of people who bought Raisin Bran. So, pause and rewind as much as possible to understand how you can use that constant of proportionality to determine unknown values. Okay, so here's our next situation. We are asked to find the constant of proportionality represented in the graph. So what do I always tell you to do again? Write out your X, Y chart. So let's look. Our first point is right here. When X is 0, Y is 0. Since we have a situation that's linear and it goes through the origin, we know it's going to be proportional. So we started at 0, 0. My next point is that X is 15 and Y is at 10. Alright? Next, X is at 30 and Y is at 20. Okay? And then my last point, X is at 45 and Y is at 30. So now I have my X and my Y values. Now it's time for me to write out, let me do it down here, K equals Y divided by X. So let's pick any Y value that we want. I'm going to choose 10. I'm going to go with the smallest one. 10 is my Y divided by 15. I'm going to go ahead and simplify that to 2/3. So what that means is to get my Y's, I multiply my X's by 2/3. Let's see if that works. Let's try it for another one. Is 45 times 2/3 30? Let's see. What's 45 over 1 times 2/3? 45 times 2 is 90. And 1 times 3 is 3. And 90 divided by 3 is 30. So yes, this is my constant. So pause and rewind as much as you need to make sure you understand how to write out your table and then how to test to make sure that you understand that your constant is 2/3. Alright, and then our last situation, the weight of a person on Venus varies directly with his or her weight on Earth. A person weighing 120 pounds on Earth weighs 106 pounds on Venus. We have to use the constant of proportionality to determine how much a person weighing 180 pounds on Earth would weigh on Venus. So let's go ahead and set up our X, Y chart. Now, in this situation, we have how much somebody weighs on Earth, and we have how much somebody weighs on Venus. So to determine which is the X and the Y, we need to think, does the Earth weight depend on your Venus weight, or does your Venus weight depend on the Earth weight? So this second situation is true. Your weight on Venus depends on your weight on Earth. So X is your independent variable, and that's your Earth weight. And Y is your dependent variable. That's your Venus weight. So I'm going to write E above my X, and I'm going to write V here. So we know that on Earth, when you weigh 120 pounds, on Venus you weigh 106. And the question is, how much would somebody weigh on Venus, so we're looking for Venus, if they weigh 180 pounds on Earth? Now, a couple of ways to look at this. I could could think, well, can I get 120 down to something that I can then get back up to 180? Well, can't I get 120 down to 30? I could divide this by 4. So 120 divided by 4 is 30, and then 30 times 6 is 180. Okay, so then over here, I would have to say 106 divided by 4. So I would do 106 divided by 4. It goes in there twice. So that's 26 and 2/4 remaining, which is a half. And then I could multiply that by 6. So I could then say 26 times 6, that's 36, 156. And then half of 6 is 3, so I have to add 3 more. So 159. So I could use just what I know about proportionality to get 159, or I could use my constant of proportionality. Or we could do what the problem asks us to do, which is to use the constant of proportionality. So let's write out K equals Y over X. Y divided by X. So I'm going to substitute in 106 over 120. Now, what I'm going to suggest that you do before you start using this is to simplify as much as possible. So, I don't know, we could even start real simple and divide it by 2 halves. So that would be 53 over 60. Is there anything else that I can simplify it by? I don't think so. So let's use the simplified K equals 53/60ths. So we're going to use 53/60ths. Now remember, what is your constant? What does that do for you? Whatever you can take your constant and you can multiply it to your X to get your Y. So 180 times 53/60ths. So that means 180 over 1 times 53 over 60. Now, 180 times 53, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, is 9,540 divided by 1 times 60 is 60. And if we divided that out, we divided 9,540 by 60, we would get 159, which is exactly what we got before. So, I know this was really long, but I want you to be exposed to how using the constant of proportionality to figure out values for Y. I want you to watch the video. I want you to take a break, and I want you to come back and watch the video again, and I want you to take another break, and I want you to watch the video a third time, just to make sure that you really understand it, because this is going to help you review for our quiz. And we will answer any questions that you have in class.